As tensions rise in the global economic landscape, the United States and China find themselves on the brink of renewed hostilities, echoing a trade war that has shaped international relations over the past few years. With a tariff deadline looming, the stakes are high for both nations, and analysts are closely monitoring the situation for signs of escalation or resolution. The immediate catalyst for this latest round of tension is President Donald Trump's announcement of a 10% tariff on Chinese imports aimed at addressing the ongoing issue of fentanyl exports from China to the U.S. and Mexico. This decision has been met with swift retaliation from Beijing, which has announced its own tariffs of 10 to 15% on American energy exports and agricultural equipment, set to take effect imminently. According to Zhang Yanshen, an expert at the China Center for International Economic Exchanges, this could be just the beginning of this phase of the trade war. It could become a very, very bad situation. Despite initial expectations of diplomatic talks, the mood has shifted as Trump expressed a lack of urgency to engage with Chinese President Xi Jinping following the retaliatory measures. The tariffs were an opening salvo, he stated, implying that more substantial actions could follow if China does not comply with U.S. demands. A White House official, however, assured that the U.S. remains in constant contact with Beijing, indicating that some channels of communication are still open, albeit strained. The volatility of the situation is compounded by differing perspectives on the efficacy of Trump's aggressive tactics. Chinese analysts warn that such shock tactics may backfire given the short notice provided between the announcement and implementation of tariffs. Ma Wei, a researcher at the Cass Institute of American Studies, emphasized that China seeks an equal negotiation process, stating, "You have to have equal talks and an equal agreement." This sentiment reflects a broader hesitation within China to concede under pressure, which could prolong the impasse. Interestingly, the scope of China's retaliation has been relatively limited, suggesting a potential willingness to negotiate. Recent actions included antitrust investigations into major U.S. tech firms such as Google and Nvidia, rather than a broad-based economic strike. This indicates that while tensions are escalating, both sides may still be seeking a pathway to dialogue. Amidst these economic tensions, another significant event is unfolding on the international stage: the Global Artificial Intelligence Action Summit in Paris. This summit is gathering 5,000 AI experts and 80 world leaders, highlighting the increasing importance of AI technology in geopolitical discussions, with the US and China dominating the AI landscape. France and the European Union are positioning themselves to assert relevance in the ongoing tech race. France's ambitious plans include unveiling a new AI foundation for public interest and attracting major investments in AI infrastructure, including a notable €30 to €50 billion data center from the UAE. However, experts caution that Europe's efforts may be insufficient compared to the US government's staggering $500 billion investment in AI projects. The summit aims to foster multilateral discussions on ethical AI practices, but there are concerns about whether these initiatives can keep pace with the rapid advancements being made by the US and China. In this dynamic environment, the implications of U.S. China trade relations extend beyond economic metrics. They influence global political alignments and technological advancements. While the immediate focus remains on tariff negotiations, the broader contest for technological supremacy, particularly in AI, could reshape international relations for years to come. As both nations navigate these turbulent waters, stakeholders worldwide will be watching closely to see if they can avert a full-blown trade war or if the escalating tensions will lead to deeper fractures in their relationship. The coming weeks will be critical as the world waits to see how these developments unfold and what they mean for global stability. As the deadline for new tariffs approaches, tensions between the United States and China are escalating, raising fears of a renewed trade war between the world's two largest economies. On February 4, 2025, President Donald Trump announced a 10% tariff on an array of Chinese imports, positioning the decision as a necessary response to China's perceived inaction in curbing fentanyl exports that have fueled an opioid crisis in the U.S. This move has triggered immediate retaliatory measures from Beijing, which announced its own tariffs on American exports, further complicating an already fraught economic relationship. With tariffs on $14 billion worth of U.S. goods set to take effect imminently, analysts warn that the situation could spiral into a full-blown trade conflict. This could become a very, very bad situation, remarked Zhang Yanshen, an expert at the China Center for International Economic Exchanges. The rapid tempo of these developments has left many analysts puzzled, as initial expectations of diplomatic negotiations between the two nations have largely evaporated. Following Trump's announcement, China responded by imposing additional tariffs of 10% to 15% on U.S. energy exports and agricultural machinery. While some experts noted that China's retaliation was measured, focusing on a narrower range of goods compared to the extensive U.S. tariffs, others cautioned that the limited scope did not preclude the potential for escalating tensions. A White House official indicated that the Trump administration remains in constant contact with Chinese counterparts, but the lack of concrete dialogue has led to speculation about the feasibility of reaching an amicable resolution. The timing of the U.S. tariffs implemented just 2 days after their announcement has been characterized as a tactical misstep by some analysts. "You have to have equal talks and an equal agreement," stated Ma Wei, a researcher at the Cass Institute of American Studies in Beijing. The aggressive nature of the U.S. approach has been perceived as an attempt to pressure China into a hasty agreement, a strategy that some believe may backfire. Adding to the complexity of the bilateral relationship, Trump's administration has signaled a broader agenda that includes pressing China on various fronts unrelated to trade, such as addressing its ties with Russia and the ownership of the popular short video platform TikTok. Experts argue that these demands may be complicating the situation further as they introduce elements that transcend traditional trade discussions. The impact of the newly imposed tariffs is expected to reverberate across multiple sectors. American industries heavily reliant on Chinese imports, from consumer electronics to agriculture, are bracing for increased costs that could ultimately be passed on to consumers. Wendy Cutler, a trade expert at the Asia Society Policy Institute, emphasized that unlike previous interactions with Canada and Mexico, China is likely to take a more cautious wait-and-see approach before re-engaging in substantive talks. China's dependency on the U.S. market has diminished over the years, now accounting for just 15% of its overall trade. This shift, coupled with a strategic pivot toward strengthening ties with other global partners, suggests that Beijing may be better positioned to weather the storm of renewed tariffs. Chinese officials have indicated a willingness to negotiate, yet they also stress the need for a balanced dialogue, especially in light of the U.S. accusations regarding fentanyl. Amid these developments, the broader implications for both economies cannot be understated. Economists warn that the cumulative effect of heightened tariffs could lead to significant economic repercussions, potentially stifling growth in both nations. Hui Shan, chief China economist at Goldman Sachs, has estimated that every 20 percentage point increase in U.S. tariffs could reduce China's GDP growth by 0.7 percentage points. Although China might mitigate some of this impact through currency depreciation and stimulus measures, the long-term ramifications of a trade war could be severe. As the global community watches the unfolding scenario, the potential for a protracted economic standoff looms large. Both nations must navigate their respective economic interests while considering the broader ramifications for global trade dynamics. A sustained conflict could prompt shifts in supply chains, increased inflationary pressures, and a re-evaluation of strategic alliances on the international stage. Looking ahead, the future of U.S. China relations remains uncertain. The current trajectory suggests that without proactive diplomatic engagement, the risk of escalating tensions and economic fallout will only increase. As both countries grapple with their economic strategies, the need for a balanced approach that prioritizes negotiation over confrontation is paramount. The stakes are high, not just for the U.S. and China but for the global economy as a whole, which continues to grapple with the repercussions of these titanic economic clashes. The recent freeze on U.S. foreign aid ordered by the White House has sent ripples of concern through Taiwan as tensions between the island and mainland China continue to escalate. Analysts warned that this move could significantly undermine Taiwan's defense capabilities at a time when military pressure from Beijing is mounting. The implications of the aid freeze extend beyond military support, potentially prompting Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party (DPP) government to reassess its diplomatic strategies with both Washington and Beijing. On January 24, the U.S. State Department issued a stop work order, halting nearly all foreign assistance for a 90-day period to evaluate its alignment with President Donald Trump's foreign policy objectives. Notably, this directive exempts only emergency food aid and military financing for Israel and Egypt, while key U.S. security partners including Taiwan were left unmentioned. This freeze has raised alarms given that although Taiwan has not received direct U.S. foreign aid since 1979, its military support has seen a notable increase in recent years. Under former President Joe Biden, Taiwan was allocated a landmark military aid package worth $345 million in 2023, followed by an additional $571 million the subsequent year, which included weapons and training services. Congress also approved up to $10 billion in interest-free loans for Taiwan until 2027. Lin Yi-jun, an opposition legislator from the Taiwan People's Party, articulated the gravity of the situation, stating, "Any aid cuts in the USAID shutdown would make Taiwan's international position even more precarious." This sentiment underscores the precarious nature of Taiwan's diplomatic standing as it grapples with increasing Chinese assertiveness in the region. Simultaneously, a different threat looms in the form of cybersecurity concerns related to a Chinese AI tool named DeepSeek, which has been linked to potential data leaks to a company close to China's military network. Researchers have discovered hidden code within DeepSeek that appears to connect the platform to China Mobile, a state-controlled telecommunications giant sanctioned by the U.S. for its alleged ties to the military. This revelation raises alarms about a possible extensive surveillance operation targeting users worldwide, highlighting the risks associated with Chinese technology infiltrating global markets. Cybersecurity experts, including Ivan Sereny, CEO of Ferret, voiced their concerns about the implications of such data collection. Sereny remarked, "It is shocking that we are allowing China to probe Americans unknowingly, and yet no action is being taken to stop it. The potential for sensitive information to be harvested without users' knowledge intensifies the call for heightened scrutiny and regulation of Chinese tech companies operating in Western jurisdictions." Adding to the geopolitical landscape, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and President Trump issued a joint statement emphasizing their commitment to countering China's territorial ambitions in the wake of increasing military exercises around Taiwan. This collaboration signifies a strengthening of the U.S.-Japan alliance, which aims to bolster defense capabilities in response to perceived threats from Beijing, particularly regarding Taiwan. The leaders reaffirmed their commitment to maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, a sentiment echoed amidst rising military activities in the region. As these events unfold, the intersection of foreign aid policy, cybersecurity risks, and international relations presents a complex web of challenges facing Taiwan and its allies. The implications of the U.S. foreign aid freeze, coupled with revelations about potential data security threats from Chinese technology, could redefine the strategic landscape in East Asia. Stakeholders are left to ponder the future of U.S.-Taiwan relations and the broader impacts on regional security dynamics as tensions with China continue to rise.